Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu. So today is the second day of the retreat, and this is the day you would have the most trouble with hindrances. Because when you start with your normal daily routine and then you change it to a routine of meditation, then all the hindrances start to come. So the first day would always be the most difficult, because those normal patterns are being challenged by you. Because when you recognize your mind is going to another subject, you are releasing it, relaxing, re-smiling, returning back. And that process kind of again kind of agitates the process of again new thoughts coming in, and the hindrances kind of hindering your process of sending metta to yourself and then to the spiritual friend. So as of now, the Buddha also when he was a bodhisattva, that time he faced the problem and he thought about what a solution he can find for the same. So this is the simplest solution which the Buddha gives. There are other solutions also, and there are other suttas also based on the hindrances. So this is a sutta which is a very kind of important in my view, because it has the simplest solution one can implement immediately. This is from Majjhima Nikāya. It is the sutta number 19, Dvedhāvitakka Sutta, or two kinds of thought. So these are, I will start. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jetha's grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, venerable sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this. So the Buddha was staying in Anathapindika's park. And he addressed the bhikkhus, but we can also say that he addressed the students, so we can change that word to students. Anybody who is in study or who wants to study the meditation, so we will change that word to a student. Okay, students, before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, it occurred to me, suppose that I divide my thoughts into two classes. So he first said that is very important, that he is talking about a time when he was not fully awakened or enlightened. And when he was not fully awakened, he had this thought that suppose I divide my thoughts into two classes. Then I set aside one side thoughts of sensual desire, thoughts of ill will, and thoughts of cruelty. What are thoughts of sensual desires? Anything related to the six senses. So if it is a visual, you want to see something beautiful, you want to hear something pleasant, you want to smell something nice, you want to taste something, you want to feel something, or you want to think about something nice. So those things are senses, related to senses. So sensual pleasures are anything which is related to I want good visual things, I want good sounds, I want good smell, I want good taste, I want good feelings, I want good thoughts. So that is the sensual part of it. Then the thoughts of ill will. Ill will is I don't like, or I don't like this person, or I don't like this sound, I don't like this any kind of visual things or smell or taste or sensations. So that is ill will. And thoughts of cruelty. The thoughts of cruelty are extreme kind of ill will. So you want to hurt somebody, or there is somebody who has told you something and you kind of are angry with the person. So those are thoughts of cruelty. And I set on other side thoughts of renunciation. Renunciation is letting go. So the first thing which we let go in our meditation is the hindrances which come. When we recognize there is a thought, we say release. So we let go that thought, whatever has come. It may be pleasant, it may be based on our emotions, but we say let go of that thought. First thing, we renounce that thing. Then what we do is relax, re-smile, and return back to our object of meditation. As I set aside on other side thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-ill will. Thoughts of non-ill will is thoughts of metta. So if thoughts of ill will is on the one side, then the thoughts of non-ill will is there, of metta. Thoughts of non-cruelty, that is karuna. So there is compassion, the thoughts of compassion is there, and thoughts of metta is there. So he puts aside those things into baskets, into categories. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute. So he was diligent, he was honest in his work, he was ardent, he was enthusiastic about doing his meditation, and he was resolute. He was determined to do his meditation. So you should also be in this way honest, enthusiastic, and determined in doing your meditation. A thought of sensual desire arose in me. I understood thus. This thought of sensual desire has arisen in me. So this is a very important aspect the Buddha is talking about. So this aspect is that you recognize that there is a thought. So that recognition is there, which is possible by you. So if there are thoughts of ill will, you can recognize that there are thoughts of metta is there, loving kindness is there, that you can recognize. So first thing the Buddha is saying clearly is that you can recognize. So that first step which we are saying in our meditation is you recognize if your mind's attention is not there on your object of meditation. So there he starts, this thought of sensual desire has arisen in me. This leads to my own affliction, to others' affliction, to the affliction of both. So if there is an unwholesome thought, it will not help me because it will create bad karma for me. The bad actions which I have taken will result in bad results. It will not be beneficial for somebody else if with the mind of ill will I kind of speak to somebody. Then he will also feel bad, and in turn we both will have the negative effects if that thought is taken forward. It obstructs wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is understanding the dependent origination. Wherever wise or wisdom is mentioned, Bhante Vimalamsi kind of clarifies that wisdom means how the mind is working. So that information about how the mind's attention is moving from one thing to another and how it is impersonal. That knowledge which is there, which is related to the dependent origination, that knowledge is hindered, causes difficulties. So when you are putting your attention on unwholesome things, it causes difficulties and leads away from Nibbana. So it leads away from our ultimate goal of the wisdom or release. When I considered this leads to my own affliction, it subsided in me. When I considered this leads to others' affliction, it subsided in me. When I considered this leads to the affliction of both, it subsided in me. When I considered this obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties, and leads away from Nibbana, it subsided in me. Whenever a thought of sensual desire arose in me, I abandoned it, removed it, did away with it. So what the Buddha is saying is that when he realized that this is a unwholesome thought, so he let it be. So he let that thought, he abandoned that thought, means he did not pay attention to that thought. So the attention was removed from that thought. So how we say in our right effort or harmonious practices, you recognize, then you release it. You release your attention from the thought, then you relax, re-smile, and return back to your object of meditation. So what the Buddha did was, he said that I abandoned it. Removed it is not in totally the way removing it means he removed the attention from it. So one removes the attention from that which has come up. Removed it, did away with it means he kind of let it go away. So he did not fight with it, he did not kind of do anything, he just took his attention away and put it on something wholesome. Now this wholesome thing is relaxing, smiling and coming back to your meditation, which is the non-ill will or metta, which we are doing. As I abandoned thus, diligent, ardent and resolute, a thought of ill will arose in me, a thought of cruelty arose in me. I understood thus, this thought of cruelty has arisen in me. This leads to my own affliction, to others' affliction, and to the affliction of both. It obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties, leads away from Nibbana. When I considered thus, it subsided in me. Whenever a thought of cruelty arose in me, I abandoned it, removed it, did away with it. Students, whatever a student frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. So this line which is there is one of the favorite lines by the Vimal Ramsey kind of often repeats this thing, because it kind of gives an indication of what happens for our habitual tendencies. So whatever habitual tendencies we have, which we are not able to control, this kind of gives a clue for why it is there. So students, whatever student frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become inclination of his mind. So if we frequently ponder upon the sensual pleasures, then the desire for sensual pleasures will grow. If we frequently think and ponder upon ill will, the ill will grow. If we frequently think and ponder upon cruelty, the cruelty will grow. So whatever our attention is going constantly and being in our sphere of influence, that kind of grows. And that also creates a cycle which is called a vicious cycle. How? Because if you are having those thoughts, that thoughts will grow, and if you have more of those thoughts, then again you will pay more attention to it, and that cycle keeps on growing. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of sensual desire, he has abandoned the thought of renunciation to cultivate the thought of sensual desire. So, if you are putting your thought on sensual desire, you have given up the thoughts of renunciation. And then his mind inclines to thoughts of sensual desire. If he frequently thinks and ponders thoughts of sensual desire, if he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of ill will, upon thoughts of cruelty, he has abandoned the thought of non-cruelty to cultivate the thought of cruelty. And then his mind inclines towards cruelty. In the same way, towards the ill will also. So whatever your mind you put your attention on, that grows. So where your attention you are putting is very important. What we say is important over here is putting your attention on the feeling of the loving kindness which you have, and the giving away of that feeling to your spiritual friend. So that is the most important, and you keep your attention on that. When you are starting, you start with 10 minutes to yourself, and then rest of the time you give it to your spiritual friend. Just as in the last month of rainy season, in the autumn, when the crops thicken, a cowherd would guard his cows by constantly tapping and poking them on this side and that with a stick to check and curb them. Why is that? So we see in the villages when there are crops are there, and then there are buffaloes which are there, or the cows which are herd. The herds person is very careful. He kind of puts them all in line, because if he does not do it, what can happen is the cows or the buffaloes can go into the field. So in that way he kind of keeps a check constantly of what is happening. So he goes over this side or that side, he is constantly keeping a check. So he is constantly aware. because he sees that he could be flogged, imprisoned, fined or blamed if he let them stray into the crops. So too I saw in unwholesome states danger, degradation and defilement, and in unwholesome states the blessing of renunciation, the aspect of cleansing. So the Buddha says that as one person who kind of takes care of his cows diligently, because he knows that if it goes to another direction, you can kind of be blamed for it, you can be kind of fined for it, you can be kind of punished for it. So being careful about our thoughts which are there coming up. So the Bhante says that the only time you abandon the meditation is you recognize your thought is not there on your object of meditation and continue thinking that thought. That is like letting the cows go into the field, and you have now created trouble for yourself. So if your attention moves 50 times, and 50 times you bring it back to your object of meditation, this is a good meditation. It is not a bad meditation. Okay? So you continuously do, because this has a cleaning effect. So when you are taking away energy from the unwholesome and putting energy into the wholesome, then the wholesome grows and it becomes weak. So there is a wholesome cycle which is growing, because then your hindrances become weaker and your feeling of metta is there, loving kindness becomes stronger. So in this way the cycle of good kind of perpetuates. As I abide thus, diligent, ardent and resolute, a thought of renunciation arose in me. I understood thus this thought of renunciation as arisen in me. This does not lead to my own affliction or to others' affliction or to the affliction of both. It abides, it aids wisdom, does not cause difficulties and leads to nibbana. So if you are putting your thoughts on wholesome, what is the wholesome? It is the metta, karuna, mudita and upekha. The Brahma Viharas which are there, that are wholesome. So when you start with metta, then it automatically grows to karuna, it grows to mudita, it grows to upekha. It starts from loving kindness, then goes to compassion, then joy and equanimity. So as you progress, as you put in more and more your attention to the wholesome qualities grows, and it grows in way of Brahma Viharas which the Buddha is teaching. This does not lead to my own affliction or to others' affliction or to the affliction of both. It aids wisdom, does not cause difficulty and leads to nibbana. If I think and ponder upon this thought, even for a night, even for a day, even for a night and day, I see nothing to fear from it. But with the excessive thinking and pondering, I might tire my body, and when the body is tired, the mind becomes strained, and when the mind is strained, it is far from collectedness. So I steadied my mind internally, quieted it, brought it to singleness and collected it. Why is that? So that my mind should not be strained. So the Buddha is also kind of warning you about over effort over here. So you should not strain yourself or do over effort. That is the reason in the Siksha some people will have a question about what is the repeat when needed. So when needed means that when your attention is there on your object of meditation metta, if there is some thoughts in the background, then you do not disturb that thoughts, let that thoughts be and keep your attention over here. You don't have to have a thoughtless mind to do this meditation. Your attention has to be on your object of meditation, on sending the metta to your friend. If your attention is there, then if something happens in the right side, left side, back side, something thoughts come, then you keep your attention focused on your task. Don't try to fight with everything which comes about. Only when you recognize that your mind's attention has totally gone away from your object of meditation, that time you recognize that you are no longer doing your meditation You are no longer on your object of meditation or sending spiritual, your spiritual friend the metta. Then you recognize, release, relax, re-smile and come back. You don't have to repeat that. You don't have to say, I recognized, I released, I relaxed, I smiled, I returned. You have to do it. To do it, it has to be a process which happens quickly. You recognize, you release, you relax, smile and just come back. You have to do the 6 hours. You don't have to repeat the 6 hours. So you don't have to mentally say, I recognized, I released, I relaxed, I re-smiled, I returned. So you just have to do the thing, not repeat it. So it's an instruction. So you should not also repeat your affirmations. May I be happy, as a chanting or as a mantra. You just have to use it as a reminder. One time you say, may I be happy. And if your attention is there on your metta and the feeling is there and you are able to put your attention on that, then keep that feeling going as long as it goes. But if you see you want to remind yourself once again after some time, then just remind yourself once again, and then when you are sending to your spiritual friend, keep it going. And then if you want to remind once, then you just remind yourself, may my friend be happy. So in this way you keep on continuing. And that sheet of paper we have given, there are other affirmations also, so that you may use. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent and resolute, a thought of non-ill will arose in me, a thought of non-cruelty arose in me. I understood thus, this thought of non-cruelty has arisen in me. This does not lead to my own affliction or to others' affliction or to the affliction of both. It aids wisdom, does not cause difficulties and leads to nibbana. If I think and ponder upon this thought, even for a night, even for a day, even for a night and day, I see nothing to fear from it. But with the excessive thinking and pondering, I might tire my body. When the body is tired, the mind becomes strained, and when the mind is strained, it is far from collectedness. So I studied my mind internally, quietened it, brought it to singleness and concentrated it or collected it. Why is that? So that my mind should not be strained. Students, whatever a student frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of renunciation, he has abandoned the thought of sensual pleasure, sensual desire, to cultivate the thought of renunciation, and then his mind inclines to thoughts of renunciation. So when you constantly think about your friend's well-being and sending metta to your friend, then the other distraction thoughts, you have abandoned those thoughts, and then you are paying attention to your spiritual friend. If you are sending in direction, you are previously doing meditation, then you keep sending in direction in the same way you are doing previously. So this, whatever you were doing previously as your object of meditation, you continue with that. You don't have to change the object of meditation when you are starting this retreat. If you have previously sending to direction, then keep doing to the direction. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of non-ill will, upon thoughts of non-cruelty, he has abandoned thought of cruelty to cultivate the thought of non-cruelty, and then his mind inclines to thoughts of non-cruelty. Just as in the last season of the hot season, so of the last month of the hot season, when all the crops have been brought inside the village, a cowherd would guard his cow while staying at the root of a tree or out in the open, since he needs only to be mindful that the cows are there. So too there was need for me only to be mindful that those states were there. So what happened was that when he was paying attention to the wholesome, his mind kind of abandoned the unwholesome. When the unwholesome was abandoned, there was a state of mind like in the hot season when the crops have been cultivated, they have been cut, they are brought in the village, and now he can let the cows just be, and he can just watch that these cows are there, but he does not have to fear that it will stray or he will get into trouble. That time, as you cultivate your mind, you will go into states of mind where you will experience. So our old students will kind of recognize this state of mind where they just have to be aware that this thing is there. So the strain is not there on your mind because the unwholesome has been abandoned and your thoughts are on wholesome. So as you develop your mind, this state of mind which is a developed state of mind will come. Tireless energy was arisen in me, and unrelenting mindfulness was established. My body was tranquil and untroubled. My mind concentrated and means collected and unified. This is indication for a jhanic state. So the Buddha is kind of indicating that he was in a jhanic state. So when you have abandoned the unwholesome and you have the wholesome, in the first jhana, what are the states? That you don't have the 5 hindrances. That is one of the conditions for being in the first jhana. So he is telling us that he is in a jhanic state. Tireless energy was aroused in me. Unrelenting mindfulness was established. My body was tranquil and untroubled. So there was no pain or issues with the body, and my mind collected and unified. So, and he was there, the mind was still. It was not moving around or busy. At that point of time, the mind was still. So, he is explaining the state of a jhanic. Quite secluded from sensual pleasure, secluded from unwholesome state, I entered upon and abided in the first jhana. So there is an explanation which has already been given in other suttas. And then he goes to the second jhana, then the third jhana, then the fourth jhana. After the fourth jhana, he goes to arupa jhanas. So infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, neither perception or non-perception. That states of mind he develops. One by one, it happens as you put your attention on the wholesome and cultivate your wholesome mind, the mind automatically inclines and goes. So as the Buddha's mind was there, the same thing, the same mind we also have. So as the Buddha could develop those states of mind, we also can develop those state of mind. Buddha was, when he strived for as a bodhisattva, told that anybody can equal my effort, but they cannot exceed it. That means that the effort which he has done is a human effort. So anybody can match his effort, but cannot exceed it, because he goes to the maximum. Like a runner is there or an athlete is there. He has a limit of speed he can reach. Somebody can maybe reach that speed but cannot exceed that speed. So that way the Buddha is also a kind of a practitioner who can achieve in his striving a very high level of competence. But more than that you cannot do. That means that it is a human effort. So he says that somebody can match my efforts but cannot exceed my efforts, because he goes to the logical end of his efforts. So in this same way, when he is giving us the description of the jhanas, that means that we also will be able to attain those jhanas. It is not as something exclusive, or we are not excluded from that, because as a bodhisattva, he was a human, we are also human, where we are striving. So we will also be able to develop. I directly knew birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. So what happened after the neither perception or non-perception was the experience of cessation. And after the experience of cessation, he experienced the knowledge, and that is called the Nibbana. So he had the clarity of whatever had to be known, he had known. And one way of saying is that the ignorance was destroyed. Technical term Buddha uses sometimes is the ignorance was destroyed. Means there is nothing that is keeping him in the samsara, the knowledge. That knowledge have all he has gained. And the whatever ignorance was there, that has ended. So in that way, what he discovered is the birth is destroyed. Why does the birth happen? Because there is a desire. So anything action we take, if you have to kind of have this water also, I have to have the desire in the mind first. Then my hand will go and take this water. Without that desire for water, my hand will not move. If we had no desire, then we could not have traveled so long and with so difficulty and reached over here. So with desire, the wholesome things also happen. So for the wholesome thing to happen also, we need the desire for the wholesome. So then he knows that the birth is destroyed because there is no desire. There is no desire for birth, even birth, or no desire for any kind of life form. The holy life has been lived. The holy life has been lived. For what purpose do a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni, why does he live the holy life? To attain Nibbana. To understand the what has to be understood, to know what has to be known. So the holy life has been lived. So that has culminated in the goal. So to achieve the goal of Nibbana, that holy life was lived, and that has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. So he is clearly saying that there is no other state of being which can be described as the coming, next coming. So he is kind of clearly giving an indication. This was the third true knowledge attained by me in the last watch of the night. Ignorance was banished and true knowledge arose. So I think the first two knowledges were the knowledges of the birth, his past lives. So all the past life he first saw when he was born, how he lived, what he ate, and how he passed away. So this whole knowledge of his past came to him. Then he got the knowledge of all the beings, how the beings are being born and they are staying, and how in which state they are staying. That is divine eye. So that knowledge he got, and then the third knowledge was the knowledge of the Nibbana, the release which he had. So that is the knowledge he had. So what has happened is ignorance was banished. So he had no more ignorance. True knowledge arose. He had the true knowledge. Darkness was banished. Light arose. As happens in one who abides diligent, ardent and resolute. So you have to be honest in your effort. You have to be enthusiastic, and you have to put in the work in. So if you are doing that, then you will reach your goals. You will progress in this meditation as you put in the efforts. Suppose students that in a wooded area range there was a great low-lying marsh near which a large herd of deer lived. Then a man appeared, desiring their ruin, harm and bondage, and he closed off the safe good path to be travelled joyfully, and he opened up a false path, and he put out a decoy and set up a dummy, so that the large herd of deer might later come upon calamity, disaster and loss. So the Buddha is kind of giving us a simile over here. Buddha is considered to have the best similes. Over here he is saying that there is a grass field, okay? There is a field of grass, and there is a road which is going towards the safety, okay? So, but there is a hunter who says that first what he does is he closes down the road to safety. Then what he does is he puts up some dummy. So he takes a deer made of plastic or wood or something like that. Then he keeps that deer over there. So people think, oh, there is other deers also. So I can also go. This path is closed, but that path has other deers. We will also go over there. So he makes a decoy. And then he kind of lures the other deers over there in the area which is enclosed, where they don't have an escape. So that is what the hunter does it. But another good man came, desiring the good of the deer, welfare and protection, and he reopened the good and safe path that led to their happiness, and he closed off the false path. And he removed the decoy and destroyed the dummy, so that the large herd of deer might later come to growth, increase and fulfillment. So there is one other person who is a good person who comes along, and he kind of opens up the good path. He destroys the dummy, because then seeing the dummy, the other deers will also come over there, and kind of opens the path to the safety. Students, I have given this simile in order to convey a meaning. This is the meaning. The great low-lying marsh is a term for sensual pleasure. The large herd of deer is a term for beings. Beings mean all beings. The man desiring their ruin, harm and bondage is a term for Mara, the evil one. The false path is a term for the wrong eightfold path. What is? That is wrong view, wrong intention, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness and wrong concentration. The decoy is a term for delight and lust. So whatever you kind of delight in, you are desirous of, those are the terms for the decoy. The dummy is a term for ignorance. So what happens is that whenever we do something unwholesome, we do it because we are unaware of the consequences of that, and we are unaware of the motivations for that. So we are not aware how we are motivated for that action, and we are also unaware for how the consequences of that wrong actions are there. Because of that ignorance, we do an action. So that is the dummy. The man desiring their good and welfare and protection is a term for the Tathagata. Tathagata is also a name term used for the Buddha. Accomplished and fully enlightened. The safe and good path to be traveled joyfully is a term for the noble eightfold path. That is right view, or we say harmonious perspective. Right intention, that is harmonious, this is harmonious perspective, then harmonious imaging. Then right speech, harmonious communication. Right action, harmonious movement, that is harmonious movement of the mind, how the mind's movement is moving. Harmonious, the right livelihood is harmonious lifestyle. The right effort is harmonious practice. Right mindfulness is harmonious observation. And right concentration is harmonious collectedness. The word collectedness is used to underscore to get away from the concentration which has some negative implications of getting concentrated or absorbed in your object. So those implications, to get away from that, Bhante Vimalramsi uses the word collected. Means your attention and your senses are coming together in one single point. They are collected at one point. That is what Ekaga, what Bhante says is. So students, the safe and good path to be traveled joyfully has been reopened by me. The wrong path has been closed off. The decoy removed. The dummy destroyed. What should be done for his disciples out of compassion by a teacher who seeks their welfare and has compassion for them? That I have done for you. Students, there are these roots of trees, these empty huts, Meditate, students, do not delay, or else you will regret it later. This is your instruction. This is our instruction to you. This is what the Blessed One said. The students were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So, what the Buddha is saying is that you should not waste your time. You have these facilities are there in this nice facility which has been given to you. There are cushions are there are chairs are there, the food is provided, which is kind of well made, on time. They provide us the food, and all these facilities are there for you. So you should use these facilities and do not be kind of negligent about your duties. So one major thing is about speaking. So you should not be speaking. You should maintain a noble silence. So I have not kind of gone out and surveyed. I hope that everybody kept noble silence in the last 24 hours. But if you have not been able to, then again resolve yourself that you will keep noble silence and you will not speak. Okay, so that is an important factor, because your mind goes to different subjects and then it kind of creates a chain reaction. The unwholesome thoughts grow and the wholesome thoughts decrease. In this way, you kind of can find a very simple way of finding out what thoughts you can pay attention to and what thoughts you can renounce. So you have been given a task of metta, of loving kindness. So you keep your attention on the loving kindness and try and grow the loving kindness in your practice, and keep your attention. If you are doing another practice or interaction, you keep your attention over there, as there are certain old students also. So is there any questions? Because I see that nobody has use this post-it marks. So this you can ask questions, you can write questions which you have on this, and just keep it over here so I can answer. If somebody don't want to ask questions in this assembly, or they don't want to put your name, so you can be without any name, it can be anonymous. So somebody can ask questions. This was Majjhima Nikāya 19, 2 kinds of thoughts. 19. So this is a sutta which is based on hindrances. There is another sutta also. So we'll see if in the interviews tomorrow how I feel, then I can take one more sutta about hindrances. Or we may have sutta about the jhanas, because the jhanas was mentioned over here, how the jhanas progress. That is an interesting sutta, Majjhima Nikāya 111, one by one as they occurred. So 111, we may do that, or we may do Majjhima Nikāya 20. So we may do one of those 2 suttas based on our interviews. If people are still facing a lot of hindrances, then we may take one more. That is also a very good sutta which is relevant to our practice, and it is giving simple solutions, and it is Buddha's teaching are very simple when you understand, and we understand with the context of practical experience. And by doing the meditation, in theory it may be very complicated, but if you do it practically and understand what is happening, then it may be more kind of relevant. This is something anybody can relate to, because they have done the meditation for one day, even that they can relate to this much more, because this is not just theory, but you have seen your mind. So the recognition step is such a great step that the Buddha in one of the suttas, when somebody asks, how do we know that one person is awakened or he is not awakened? The Buddha says that one can see if the thoughts of ill will are there, thoughts of cruelty are there in the mind. And if he sees that his mind has thoughts of ill will, cruelty, sensual desires, then his mind, he can be assured that he is not awakened. But if he can see that his mind is full of metta, karuna, mudita, upekha, then he can for himself decide if one is awakened or not awakened. So the power of this awakening is not outside of you, it is inside of you. So there is no outside force which you can say that you are awakened, you have attained this or that. There is your own understanding releases you, and your own understanding kind of makes you progress in the path. There is no external force coming and giving you brownie points or giving you the attainments, but it is your own understanding which kind of leads to your attainments. So it is your practice. As you practice, you will grow in your practice, and as you put your effort, diligent, ardent and resolute, then you will grow. So is there any questions?
So, these four awakening deeds, four Brahma Vihara are necessary, or we need other factor also like wisdom, generosity, patience?
Yeah, it starts with it. So there are many ways the Buddha has explained that one can attain the awakening. But the basic factor is that you have to understand how your mind is working. Not why this something is happening, but how it is happening. So when to understand this, the process of discovering or investigating is given by the Buddha in this manner, which is called meditation. Sometimes meditation is misunderstood as attaining calmness or balance of mind or having experiences, but that is not the point of the Buddha's practice. The Buddha's practice is called bhavana, means that is a development. So it is the development of your mind. That is what we are doing over here. So when you develop your mind, you are actually seeing how the mind's attention is going. So you are knowing how first hand that how this is impersonal. This thought was not there, now this thought is there. Did you call this thought? No. It came on its own. Would somebody have a thought of anger and say that I was not angry, that's the reason I brought up the thought of anger? No, it just directly comes up, the thoughts of anger, the thought of ill will, the thought of cruelty, it just comes up. So we know that this is impersonal by observation. Then we know that the mind's, whatever the phenomena is arising, they are impermanent. They are not there, they come and they go away. Those are the factors of it. How does the dukkha come in? How do you understand dukkha? Whenever there is something and you resist that, then you are creating dukkha for yourself. If there is a cold is there and you resist the cold, then you create dukkha for yourself. But if there is cold and you say, okay, there is cold, then you let it go, because physical pain is a reality, but dukkha is an option. Why it is an option? Because you have a choice to let that go. So by doing this practice of development of mind, one progresses in understanding. The jhana, Bhante Vibharansi says, is understanding, level of understanding. Jankari, we say in this our Hindi. So that is related to the word of jhana. Jhana is a level of understanding. So you understand at a level, then you are in first jhana. Then you understand a certain amount of thing, you abandon certain amount of things. Then you are in the second jhana. You understand more, you abandon certain things more. Then you are in a third jhana. You understand more, you abandon certain things more. Then you are in a fourth jhana. Then you direct your mind towards infinite space, that comes up. Then you are in doing mudita. Sorry, karuna. Then you go to mudita, then you go to upekha. In this way, as your understanding grows of how the mind is working, that way you progress. So there is nothing external which is happening. There is nothing that we can do for you to progress. What we can do is we can give that is the reason the Buddha says the power of instruction is the magic. Magic in Dhamma is the power of instruction. So the instructions which we are giving, that is only which we can give. The further work which is there to be done has to be done by you. By you doing the work, you will develop your own mind and you will progress. So you should require the voice of other, the Buddha says, that voice is the Dhamma. That is the voice of other. It is not my voice or Bhante Vimalramsi's voice. It is the voice of the Dhamma that is given by the Buddha, and he takes a lot of effort to kind of gain that knowledge. So when you understand, you will grow and you will progress. It will be automatic. Yes?
So are the Brahma-Viharas more through which we attain jhanas?
No, we attain jhanas by understanding our functioning of this. As we abandon the unwholesome and develop the wholesome, we automatically enter our jhanic state, because we have abandoned certain things. So in the first jhana, the main importance is your 5 hindrances you have abandoned. So those hindrances, what happens is we are recognizing them, releasing them, relaxing, smiling, returning back, and we are taking away the energy from that hindrance. Okay? What is the food for thought? Your attention. What is food for us? That would be whatever food which we are eating, solid food which we are eating, rice or wheat or something like that. That is our food. But for the thoughts, the food is your attention. So over here the Buddha is talking about attention of 2 kinds of thoughts. So one kind of thoughts are the thoughts which are hindering you, and one kind of thoughts are which are kind of progressing you. So it is directional. So you can go to this direction which is of hindrances, or you can go to this direction which is about renunciation and understanding and progress. So you, by just understanding this, recognizing, abandoning, relaxing, resmiling and returning back, you are creating the conditions for that. And that feeling which we are having that time is the feeling of loving kindness. Then it automatically changes when you are in infinite space. It changes to compassion. Okay? So, and there are sutta references also Bhante Vimalramsi gives about, in many of the suttas also, they have been clearly mentioned. So, as you progress, as you understand, then you go to the joy state. That is also called sympathetic joy. When they used to call just the joy, which is the joy of the 7 factors of awakening. So that joy is there, you still develop, and then you come into the equanimous state. And when you still develop, then you are in neither perception or non-perception. And when you have perfect balance and all the factors of awakening is in order, then there is a experience of cessation. And when you come back, you have an experience of how this thing is starting up, the dependent origination. So there you can see lights flickering, you can see maybe drops, you can see maybe circles, based on perception. Then you have a very profound joy which arises. This joy kind of stays with you for some time. It may stay for you for half a day, 1 day, 2 days. This joy can stay. Then when you look at colors, they are brighter. Then when you hear a sound, it is more clearer. You are able to kind of see that sound in a much clarity. So your senses are all sharpened. Your senses are sharpened at that point of time. Then you recognize. So then there are certain questions we ask and we kind of say this may be the possibility. We are not declaring anything over here. So we kind of say this may be the possibility. So because the progress is your progress, the effort is your effort, and this path is your path. We can only be the guides. So that is the reason Bhante Vimalramsi says that you are the teachers, because you teach yourself. And how do you teach yourself? By seeing your mind. By seeing how your mind's attention is moving from one thing to another. and how you are recognizing that, releasing, relaxing, re-smiling, returning back. By doing that, you are becoming your own teachers. And we can only give the magic of instruction, which is the power of instruction is that we can give, and rest is up to you. So the progress is up to you, and the results are your results. They are not our results. We cannot kind of give that. One example, one of the monks I knew who used to give was, the first sermon the Buddha gave was for the 5 loyal disciples. And out of the 5 loyal disciples, only one disciple, Kundanya, he became a Sotapanna. Then there is one other sutta where the Buddha kind of explains that how 3 people used to go for the Pindapata, and all of them used to have, sometimes 2 people used to go for Pindapata, and all of they used to have, and they had a continuous training, and after that all of them become awakened. So if it was for the upon the Buddha to awaken somebody, then he could have just awakened those 5 in the first sermon. So that is also not possible by the Buddha. Buddha can also only give the instructions. So that is something we have to kind of understand, and that is a kind of liberating kind of feeling, because that feeling is about empowerment. It empowers you, that you are in control of what is happening, and that empowerment you should take seriously, and being empowered to be able to do this. So is there any other questions?
So Bhante-ji, you were talking about 7 factors of that joy. So
Awakening, 7 factors of awakening.
So what
The first is the mindfulness, second is the investigation, third is mindfulness, investigation, then third is, that is investigation, Dhammagavesi, Virya, energy. Then joy is there, then tranquility is there, then equanimity is there. Then last is there's tranquility. That is, joy is has a certain kind of balancing factor, but it has more vibrations, and then tranquility has less of that vibration. Then you have upekha. Samadhi, that is samadhi, and then upekha. The samadhi is what you say in concentration, then collectedness, and upekha is the equanimity. So that has to be balanced. So that 7 factors of awakening are to be balanced at the time of when you are in the higher jhanas. Then that is to be balanced, and that is in perfect balance. That is the time you experience the cessation.
So this is the combination of Brahma-vihara and
Brahma-vihara is the states we are putting our attention on. These are the developments, the factors which are getting developed. So, so when you are doing certain things, then there is a main task which is there, and then there are certain things which happen based on that task. Okay, so based on the task of putting your attention on Brahma-viharas, the other things develop. Okay, so they happen on their own. So we cannot say that we can develop our mindfulness on its own. We kind of recognize, release, relax, and when we are letting it go, then our observation grows. That means that our mindfulness is growing. When we know, we investigate what is happening, then we know what is happening, then we know how to put in the energy required. So how much energy is required for that? Sometimes more energy is required, sometimes energy has to be taken. When you are restless, you kind of look at the tranquility. Okay, then tranquility kind of balances the energy of restlessness. So energy can be, one side there is tranquility, and the other side is energy. So energy and tranquility can be balanced. Then when a person kind of has investigates, he knows what is the thing. Then if he knows what is the things, then he can be more in equanimity. Okay, so when he is in equanimity, that means that he is able to see more and what is happening. So those factors kind of work in play with each other, and by those factors, when you are doing your meditation, you are developing those factors. So by doing your task, those factors will develop by the side. You are not kind of abandoning this and then start developing the other factors. While doing your task, those factors are developed. These are side effects. So if you do this task, the other side effects is developed, then it also helps the task, and this all develops, and it helps in a wholesome cycle, and you progress in the path. Yes, that is the object of meditation. That is object of meditation. The effort of the meditation is the right effort or the harmonious practice. That is, when you recognize, release, relax, that is the effort you are putting in. By this effort, you develop certain aspects. Those aspects, while they develop, help in the process of meditation. So that is the reason Buddha says that initially he had to poke like the herdsman, you know. He used to kind of be aware that it does not go this way or that way, and he used to keep his full effort. Then he can just be aware that this is there. So why? Because by doing the task, he has developed the mind in that manner. Then he can just look at that. So many people are there in the nothingness, in neither perception or non-perception. They can just look at this. They don't have to do a lot of effort. They are in the state of that mind. Some people sit for 3 hours in that state. Some people sit for 5 hours. Some people sit for 10 hours. Some people sit for 12 hours in that state. I personally had an experience in Bali, where the person who had come was sitting for 12 hours. He used to arrange his sitting very carefully. He used to put 2 cushions on the seat, 3 cushions on the floor, and sit on that very balanced. So his leg was 90 degrees perfect, and he used to sit. But he used to sit for 12 hours. There was a lady who came in Penang. I think Sora was there at that time. So that lady came because her sister kind of invited that you come, this is a good meditation. Her sister had done 2 or 3 retreats with Bhante, and Bhante was taking the retreat. And in the just talking about why she was breaking the sitting, she sat for 3 hours or something like that. She said that I had to kind of do the Dhamma talk, that's the reason. So Bhante said that now you try and sit as long as you are able to sit. So she started in the evening sitting. She sat through the night till the morning breakfast time. So once your mind is developed, then that was a natural, she was natural. Sometimes some people are natural at that. We don't expect this thing from everybody. But because I have also never sat more than 5 hours. So it depends on the individual. So how they are natural or something like that. So that can happen to you. You practice and just kind of put your efforts and your diligence in your practice, and things will happen. Based on your own karmic background or whatever karmic accumulation is there, you will have a different experience. But you will all see progress. A little progress or a lot progress, but everybody can see a progress because you are doing the practice of understanding. Everybody can understand, everybody can recognize when your mind is unwholesome. And he can let it go, relax, smile and come back. So everybody will progress. Any other questions? So today we are ending now, which is early, but you have time till 10 to do your meditation. Okay? So you have to first take a break. You can take a break of 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can go to relieve yourself. You can do walking meditation. You do 15 minutes walking meditation as you have sat over here for an hour or so. So after that, again come and sit. This will kind of help you. After the Dhamma talk, Bhante Ramsey kind of used to insist that you should come and sit. And this session can be really useful. Okay? And tomorrow also we will have the guided meditation. So I think a couple of them missed that guided meditation, but today, tomorrow, attend that without fail, the guided meditation, and it will give. What the other people who are older students can do their own practice, and if they want to, they can come tomorrow, or they can skip one day and come day after tomorrow also for the interviews. Okay? So if you want to come tomorrow, come for the interviews process. Okay? Is there anything else? So we had this sharing of merit. So everybody has that? May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.